It's how we can handle multiple validations for the same field. So this is another example. Let me copy this. This is multiple validations for every field. We are simple writing, but still not satisfied as a developer, because still I have to write a lot of things manually. I have to write the functions and verify them. If you look at advanced technologies, they have ready-made services. That means if you look at the Angular like technology, so they have validation services. What is the advantage of services? You don't need to write much logic to verify. You have to just apply a service, it will verify and it will report the problem. And React don't have that. React internally don't have any such service that it can use for validations without writing much logic. Then React have to depend on more third-party plugins. And people who are very familiar with Formic, they use one more plugin called Yup. Yup is another library. What is advantage of Yup library is it simplifies. So it simplifies the form and its validation. It simplifies the form and its validation. That means Formic can use this additional Yup library for validation. Yup library provides validation schemas. It provides validation schemas. Actually, other technologies have validation services, but Yup library provides validation schemas. It provides validation schemas. Schema is a structure. That means actually every validation schema is actually structure. Every validation schema defines the type and the range of value. Every validation schema defines the type and range of value. That means it is nothing but validation schema is data structure. In simple terms, validation schema is a data structure. Data structure means data structure defines what is the data type and what is the range of the data. That means what type of data we can store, how much we can store. That is data structure. Actually, schema defines the structure of data. What is the size of data and how much you can store in it and what type you can store. That is actually data types. In JavaScript also, we have primitive types, non-primitive types, data types. What is difference between primitive, non-primitive types? Primitive types will have a fixed range and non-primitive types vary according to memory available. For example, suppose in JavaScript, x equal to 10. That means x is a number. If I ask a question like how much number I can store in x, what is the limit of x number? How much? Is there any limit for that number? Yes, we have. We cannot cross that limit. There is limit for number. You cannot cross that limit. You cannot type any number you want. There is a limit for numbers. The minimum range, maximum range. You might not learn about it in JavaScript, but it is there. Actually, suppose you see, I'm showing you here. So document.write. Yeah. Here I'm showing you. So minimum, let's say number dot min safe integer. Okay. And maximum is here number dot max safe integer. So this is the range of number in JavaScript actually. That is the range of number in JavaScript. That means you cannot store any number below this or above it. That is why they are primitive types. Primitive types are fixed range. In a Boolean type, what you can store? True or false. Anything else? No. Fixed. Primitive means fixed, right? Primitive means fixed. This is the range of number. This is the range of number you can store, right? That is the point here. What validation schemas can do is, validation schema, they can verify the value type, they can verify the range of the value and they can report the problem. So what is advantage? Explicitly you don't need, so you don't need any function to verify the data type or range. Explicitly you don't need any function to verify the data type of or range. Yesterday I told you that how do we know whether that javascript how it handles, how it knows is it a number or not, is NaN. How it knows the data type of any particular value, it will use an operator called type of. How it knows whether the object derived from a specific class or not, it uses instance of. How it knows whether a property present in object or not, suppose a property is there in object or not, how to verify? How do you verify a property there or not in an object? We have to verify by using in operator. In operator will verify whether the property is available or not. These are all required for validation. So people who are dealing with validation, writing for validation, they need to know about all these things, right? But now advantage of these third party libraries is, so YEP library provides schemas like you can have boolean schema. Boolean schema. We have boolean schema. We have like number schema. You have like string schema. Like this, you have so many schemas. Boolean schema, null schema, string schema, undefined schemas. What these schemas can do is they can verify the type and structure. That means when you enter a value, they will verify whether the value is number or string. Currently, without schema, what we done, we used is NaN. We are verifying is NaN. Actually, these schemas will provide functions like, so boolean. It will provide function like number. It will provide function like a string. These will verify whether it is a boolean, is it a number, is it a string. Generally, in JavaScript, how to verify whether the value entered is a string or not? We have to verify by using type of, right? We have to do that. If a string is sent, how to convert a string to boolean? For example, in JavaScript, suppose, so var x equal to true, it is not boolean, right? It is string. How to convert it into boolean? Is there any boolean parsing method in JavaScript? No, we don't have. Parse int, parse float, numbers are there. Then how you will convert into boolean? Parse int, parse float are for integers, not for converting to boolean. How you will convert? We have to write like this: result is equal to, if x equal to true, am I right? We will put true, otherwise we will put false. This is converting. There is no conversion method in JavaScript. Then a developer have to put his skills together to brain and put all the skills together to convert it into boolean. There are no ready-made functions here, right? That is the reason when complex validations will come to handle, you will struck up without JavaScript skills properly. You can't handle, you can't write, you can't think even about how to do it if you are not good in your JavaScript, right? That means there are no methods for every purpose. We have to handle so many things using logic. How to convert a number to string? We have a function toString, right? But others we have to manually do in this way, right? And YEP provides ready-made for this. So ready-made schemas. And not only, what is the purpose of schema? Provide schemas to verify structure. So to verify type, understand? And not only that, YEP library provides functions for verifying range and pattern. For verifying range and pattern. or you can say for verifying range, pattern, and so many other things. Actually, you have ready-made functions like min, like max. We have like max length. We have like min length. So we have like required. So we have like so options like a pattern. We have like email. These are all ready-made functions. What is the advantage of these functions and schemas is without writing much logic, you can validate. Currently, what we are doing to validate manually, we have to write the logic. Now, what is advantage of this YEP library? Instead of validation function, this YEP library, instead of validation function, it introduces validation schema. What is advantage of validation schema? You import these validation schemas, you can simply validate your values without writing much logic. That simplifies validation. That simplifies your form validations. So YEP is not mandatory. Without YEP also we validated, but by using YEP, you can make it little better. Let's see how it better. In this again, several levels are there, level by level in YEP itself. We will see. See now here, I will go into this formic validation. And in order to use YEP library, the first thing you have to install YEP. So first point you have to install YEP library for project through your package manager npm install YEP and save. Right. After installing YEP library for project, actually you have to import all the validation schemas. That means actually you have to import validation schemas in component. In which component you want to use, you have to import. Actually, we have to write import. We have to write Boolean schema. We have to write number schema. So we have to like string like this. You have to import from which location? YEP. From YEP library, you have to import all these schemas. From YEP library, you have to import all these schemas. So many schemas are there. This is very time consuming process of importing all of them. In JavaScript module system, you know, we can import all schemas with asterisk. We can simply put asterisk, but all these schemas must be stored in one reference after importing. Then we have to use as YEP. Like this, we will use from YEP. This is importing all libraries. That means all the classes you want to import, then you have to use asterisk. But after importing, how to access them? They must have a reference as YEP. That means you can use as YEP, you will import all the classes and you can access them. So individually you can define, individually you can configure, or you can import all of them if you need, right? That is one option. Another important is now how the validations are configured. Formic can use YEP validation schema by using validation schema property. It have a validation schema property. That means we have constant formic is equal to use formic. In use formic, we have what are the options? We have initial values. Previously we used validation. This time validation schema. This time validation schema. And who provides that validation schema? YEP library provides that validation schema. So YEP have an object method. This YEP object is going to access all the members of YEP. That means schemas and range values, everything it is able to access. So what this YEP object will do? It is an object. This object contains field name, and for that field, what are the schemas? You have to bind the schemas. That means you have to say YEP dot number. Understood? That means you have to define data type. Okay, data type. That means now YEP is going to get the field name your field name and it will fix that field name with this data type. It will fix the field name with this data type. That means this field cannot accept any another data. That means you say number, it will say number. You say string, it will be string. It will not allow any another. And very important here, if you want to define anything else other than data type, then you can add them. That means you can say required, this is a method. You can say it is minimum 4 characters. You can say maximum 10 characters. You can add them. You can configure. That means now validation schema will get your field name and it will apply all this to your field. Earlier, what we were doing, all this we were writing for field. We were writing for field. That means if length is greater than 0, right? Length is less than 10. We are writing them. Now you don't need to write them. We have ready-made. We have to just bind them. We have to just bind them and use them. And not only that, now binding, this is configuring schema. Now how to bind, this also becomes easy now. Binding means you have to bind the fields with HTML elements, right? Bind the fields with HTML elements. Here we can do like this. Input type is equal to text. Now to bind, we can use here, we can use a simple / directive. This is triple ... You know the meaning of this. What is it? In JavaScript, once again. In JavaScript, what it is? REST operator, REST parameter. Huh? What is it? REST parameter, na? Right? REST parameter is nothing but it is able to configure only one parameter that can take multiple arguments. REST parameter, it is defined as REST parameter. REST parameter means a parameter which can take multiple arguments. We will use formic. So, and dot get field properties. Which field? The field name. We have to define the field. That means what it will do is, because every field have a lot of properties. Every field have a lot of properties. It have type, it have min, it have max. We have to read all of them. And we have to bind them to this particular text box. That means we need to read all the schema properties and bind to this text box. For that, formic uses a REST operator. In JavaScript REST operator, one parameter can accept multiple arguments. One parameter can accept multiple arguments. That means through this one reference, you can access all these arguments of that particular field called name. That means for every field, we use a lot of arguments. Then it will handle it. Now, what is the specialty of YUP? You will see now more actually here. And generally, how we can display the error messages? That means we have to configure the error message, right? So we need to configure the error message. How to display the error message? Displaying error message is nothing but actually displaying error message is nothing but you have to just give the fault. Actually, formic, we have an errors object now. This errors object will have a name. Right, we can define that, but we haven't written any errors. We haven't written any functions. We are not returning any errors, but it is able to handle because internally it manages all the schemas. This looks little better because earlier you have to write a lot and this time it simplified. Okay, let's see here. So what we do now here, let's go. And here I will remove. First we have to install YUP library. I will do one thing in disturbing this. I will first install YUP library. Yeah, npm install. So YUP and save. Okay, that is there. Now let's create one component here. Let's make this as YUP validation.js. YUP validation.js, we have a export default function. So YUP validation, okay. And return So let's keep a simple form. In this again, so many techniques are also there. We will use that. Okay. And we have heading register and data list, data term, user name. Let's keep one or two others you can try in a similar way, right? Input type is text. Okay. Another data term is email. So input type is equal to text. Okay. Another is age. Input type is equal to text. Okay. And put a button register. Okay. Register user. And this is yup validation. Yup validation component is ready. Okay. Let's add container fluid. Okay. Fine. Now let's see how the validations are defined for this, how we can handle the validation for this. Now I have to import. So we have to import Formic, use Formic from Formic. And we have to import from yup library, right? From yup library, you have to import all asterisk. So as yup from yup, we have to configure all the yup library here. Actually, you have a lot of schemas. You can explore their documents. Already I told you now what is the official source. npm.js. npm.js. Here you can explore this yup library, right? This is the yup library. You can explore their documents. This is object schema validation here. You see a lot of schemas are there. So you have all the schemas: boolean, date, mixed, number, array, object. And if you want to use all of them, and we are doing that, we are using all and importing and using them. Here so many options are there, means a lot of functions, how we can configure, define that schema related. Lot of things are there. We can even define our custom validation. These are all schema related, all structure related options are there. We have ready-made functions, we can handle them. It can provide everything, help to you. But you just go with the basic example, that is enough. Because if you start reading all this documentation, it will be very complex, right? Not required. In rare occasions, sometimes you have to deal with some rare data validations. There you need to implement some extra. For that, you can explore this. Later, I will show one small concept, how you can explore for some rare requirements if come, right? As of now, just we have to define like this. Now, what we have to do? We have to create a constant Formic is use Formic, and this Formic will use so initial values. What are the initial values? Initial values, we have username. It is empty. We have email, right? Email is also an empty string. We have age is a number. Now after configuring the initial values, we are defining the validation schema is there. Previously we used validation schema uses yup. It uses yup have an object. This object defines the specification like this. That means it contains the field name. Field name is what? User name. And what it has to use? Yup dot data type. That means we have to define the data type as a string. After that, you can add the validation here. That means you can define, you can concatenate much options. That means it will be minimum how much. That means I am using required. We can keep required. And very important, if required is not satisfied, see, you can break it. For clarity, people usually break it like this. That means same, I'm continuing. For name field, this is data type and this is required. If required is not satisfied, you put a message what you want. That means we can say that username required. And we are adding one more. I am using here another one, that is min. Min is what? Min is suppose 4. What is the message? Name to short. That is the message. Next what? Max. Max is how much? 10. What is the message? Name to long. This message should come. This is the validation for name field. Validation for name field. You don't need to write a separate function. You have to just mention the predefined values. Right now here I am defining, so email, and we have yep, right? Yep dot data type is string, and this yep is using the validation is required, and we say email required, and here we are defining another one is email have email validation. Message is some invalid email. Here the question is, if I don't give any message, what will happen? By default it will pop up the message. By default it will have a message, because every schema method is designed with as a promise. Every schema method is a promise. This is important term. You know, promise means it will return one set of function when condition is satisfied. It will return another set of function if condition is not satisfied. According to the state situation, it can change the function. So by default, schemas have promises. They have their own messages. You can override those messages. They have their own messages to display. We can override those messages. Okay. Now this is for email. And similarly, what we have to do, we have to define age. Age is an what type? Yep. And it is what type? Number type. And what else validations you want? I want required. That is age required. And age should be a number type. You can define the range, minimum, maximum also. But this number itself will verify whether it is a number or not. The number schema will verify whether it is number or not. This is schema. Now what simplicity you have seen here is, instead of writing the separate functions and writing our own logic for verifying the values, you can use ready-made schemas. And on submit is same. On submit we have to collect the values, and we have to alert and JSON string 5 and all the values. That is fine. Now here, how do we bind? Previously we are doing a lot of binding techniques. That means we have to define a name, we have to define handle change, we have to define handle blur like options if you want, right? But now here what I can do is simple. I can bind here dot. We have formic dot. So gets which field properties? The field name. Field is username. It have to get all the properties for it. That means now it will reduce on change, on blur, not required. We are not even defining name. We are not even configuring a name. Just we defined a type. The same I have to define for this one also. What is a text box? And this is for email. This is for email. And this is for age. Here you have few more things to understand. Now, how do we display the message? Where we display the message? Suppose I want to display the message. Here, how we can configure the message? We have an formic dot. You can see errors. We have an option user name, but we haven't created any errors object. In our previous example, we created an errors object. We stored all errors into that object and we were returning it. But here it is already having that errors. That means here it is already having that errors. Now we need to handle one more option here. What is it? We have to use on submit. What is it? Formic dot handle submit. Handle submit is same. That means we need to handle submit for the form, right? Now this you can see according to the data type, it already binded 0, right? It is already binded with 0 and it is displaying username required. And I am entering username short and username long. All these options are working fine. Of course, I haven't given message. I will give here class name. So text danger. Let's use the same for all of them. For email, I am defining the same. This should display for email. And for age, we are defining here. And this is for age. And you can see that this is now click on register. It says all this. and I am entering. Now it is working fine. Now it is working fine. So email is required and it is invalid email. So invalid email, when I enter proper email, it's okay. And here I entered some text, see default message. This message we haven't given, right? That means it says that age must be a number type, but the final value was NaN, right? Not a number. This we done manually. So if I don't give a message, it is returning its own message, right? For example, this number have an option. So age must be number, like this I defined. That means I'm casting my own message there. Now here, so I entered something, then you see age must be a number. But other messages, we have to compress them. We can keep our own messages and we can override the other messages. I will show you. For that, we have another level. This is also not satisfied. This is also not satisfied by a certain set of developers. Why? Because I feel that this is also too much lengthy. Right? So, but if you are dealing with every validation individually, this is okay. If you are looking for more shorter than this, we have. If you are looking for more shorter than this, we have. That means YEP provides a separate formic validation. It provides a separate formic validation components. By using those components, you don't need to even write this much. That means you can make your form more simple, and simple means very simple. It can have only field and error message. That means this looks too much complicated, but still we have a solution for this also. But this is also required in various occasions where we have to handle individually every problem. If we want to handle individually every problem, then we have to go with this. Why we cannot use this every time? If it is good, why we cannot use this every time? For example, why we cannot use every time? I will show you why you cannot use every time. You see, this is David. Okay, fine. Email required. I'm using email method for validation. Then I'm entering email. So I'm entering email. So some email at the net, I'm using at the net, GM. So Gmail. So .com, .c, it's working. That means it is expecting some single character which is not valid for me. My requirement is different. Why do I care to use this? Right? If my requirement of email is different, I don't want this. That means we will use our own validation. That is the reason you cannot say that this is best, you can use this one. That means he will decide according to his requirements. That means this is not good validation for me, then I will ignore this. I will use my own function. Right? That is the reason you cannot say this is best out of all. But this looks better when compared to the previous. This is by using YEP. By using YEP validation, how you can configure the validation and define. Right? Now we have more simplified than this. We generally call this as YEP validation components are there. Validation components. By using them, we can keep validation even simplified. That we will see next session. Tomorrow we'll do. Okay.